Greetings dear viewers and welcome back to the review program. In this episode we are going to analyze the energy market and the sector itself in Uzbekistan and focus on some of the recent large projects done in this area. The global energy market is undergoing a significant transformation, driven by factors such as geopolitical dynamics, technological advancements, policy shifts, and climate change commitments. For the recent couple of years, the energy market's landscape is defined by the transition from traditional fossil fuels to cleaner, renewable energy sources. Before we dive deeper into the key aspects of the energy market, let's start with the basics. What is global energy market? The global energy market refers to the worldwide supply, demand, trading, and pricing of energy resources such as oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear power, and renewable sources like wind, solar, and hydropower. It encompasses the entire energy value chain from production to extraction to distribution, consumption, and trading across international borders. Now moving on to the key components of the global energy market.
Energy sources includes fossil fuels, nuclear energy, and renewables. Supply and production, countries and companies involved in extracting and producing energy resources. Demand and consumption, energy is consumed by various sectors including transportation, industry, residential, and commercial. Trade and distribution, energy is traded globally involving pipelines, tankers, and electricity grids. Pricing, energy prices are influenced by supply and demand, geopolitical events, regulatory policies, and technological advancements. Geopolitics, energy markets are heavily influenced by political stability, international relations, trade policies, and conflicts, especially in regions rich of resources like Middle East. Transition to renewables. The global energy market is undergoing a significant transition towards renewable energy, driven by climate change concerns, government policies, and technological innovations.
Now, as we are familiar with the concept of the global energy market, let's analyze the market for year of 2023 and 2024. The global energy market in 2023-2024 is characterized by shifts towards decarbonization and diversification. Key trends include increased investments in renewables, energy security concerns, and technological innovation. The transition to green economy involves shifting from fossil fuels-based energy production and consumption to renewable energy sources, improving efficiency and adopting sustainable practices.
The European Union is key stakeholder and leader of sustainable energy transition and introduction of low-carbon economy. It has been continuously implementing these activities for decades and aims to be climate neutral by 2050, an economy with net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Apart from the European Union, other developed countries are also in the process of sustainable energy transition.
On the other hand, a sustainable energy transition in developing countries is slow, while many countries have limited data and non-transparent strategic documents. Developing countries are crucial to the global energy transition due to their growing energy needs and vulnerability to climate change. Several factors that are driving this transition include climate change commitments, economic and environmental benefits, and policy frameworks and incentives.
Rapid urbanization, population growth, and economic development are driving energy demand in developing countries. According to the IEA, energy demand in emerging markets and developing economies is expected to grow by 40% by 2035. Many developing countries have significant renewable energy potential, particularly in solar, wind, and hydropower. For instance, Africa has the potential to generate 1,000 times more energy than it currently consumes through renewable sources. Despite their potential, developing countries face challenges in transitioning to a green economy, including limited access to finance, inadequate infrastructure, and technological gaps. International cooperation, financial support, and technology transfer are essential to overcoming these barriers.
Some developing countries have made notable progress in their energy transitions. For example, Uzbekistan. The country, historically related to natural gas for its energy needs, is now exploring renewable energy sources and improving energy efficiency to create a more sustainable energy sector.
Uzbekistan has significant solar energy potential due to its geopolitical location, with around 370 days per year. The government has set ambitious targets for solar energy development, aiming for 5 gigawatts of solar capacity by 2030. In 2019, Uzbekistan introduced the Energy Efficiency Improvement Program to reduce energy intensity by 50% by 2030. The program includes initiatives to promote efficient energy use, upgrade heating system, and improve the energy efficiency of buildings. Uzbekistan has undertaken several policy and regulatory reforms to attract attract investment in the renewable energy sector. The government has adopted a strategy to transition a green economy and implement its commitments under the Paris Agreement. The law on renewable energy sources provides a legal framework for promoting the development and use of renewable energy. Additionally, Uzbekistan's concept for the development of electric power industry until 2030 outlines a roadmap for increasing the share of renewables in the energy mix to 25% by 2030. Uzbekistan has also been working with international organizations including the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development to develop sustainable energy projects. Foreign direct investment play a crucial role in Uzbekistan's energy transition. The government has signed several agreements with international companies such as Aqua Power, Masdar, Total Eren, and others to develop solar, wind, and other renewable energy projects. Uzbekistan is also collaborating with neighboring countries and international organizations to develop regional energy projects and share technological experience and best practices.
Now, as you're familiar with the global energy market and Uzbekistan's activities in the energy transitions, let's move on to the investments in the energy sector. We decided to focus on Aqua Power, Saudi Arabian company that actively invests into Uzbekistan's energy development. We have talked to the Chief Executive Officer of Aqua Power, who shared his vision on Uzbekistan's role in green energy development, talked about European experience, and more. Hello, sir. Thank you for your time once again. We are happy to have you in our interview today.
Thank you.
All right, maybe when you are thinking about the interviews, you are used to the formal questions, but in our conversation today, I'm planning to have a productive discussion about the energy sector, and I have a lot of questions in regards to Uzbekistan and Aqua Power. How would you like to evaluate the reforms in the energy sector in Uzbekistan?
I always go around the world in conferences and put Uzbekistan as well as Saudi Arabia as the two benchmarks in the world of the most successful, fast, bold, ambitious decarbonization programs in the world. And we're very happy to be able to participate in these. So it's not just the scale, but it's also the speed at which it is proceeding.
Talking about that, why Aqua Power chose Uzbekistan as the key partner in the energy sector?
See, for an investor like us, we invest about $20 billion a year. So we have the world as basically a playground for us to invest. It's not that we choose countries. It's almost like countries choose us. And the country that are most visionary, fast, bold, decisive in taking actions is the countries that attract investors like us. So it's not so much that we went around and we said, Uzbekistan is good. It's really that Uzbekistan stood up to be the great place to invest that it is today.
What are the particular projects that currently Aqua Power in Uzbekistan work on?
We're working on a number of projects. We are building about 11 gigawatt of capacity. That's an investment of more than $15 billion. And they go from the base load, so very high efficiency combined cycles that burn the gas to produce electricity, which is very good, particularly in the winter, when you want safe, reliable operations of the plants. And we know in the past that there were issues, and so we hope that with these, the situation will be stabilized and can provide the further growth. The second is renewables, and that's the bulk of what we're doing, almost 10 gigawatt of capacity. So these are mostly wind, because this is a country that is blessed with a lot of wind, and solar.
Talking about the projects, recently Aqua Power has sold 35% stake in two wind power plants in Uzbekistan to China. What is it connected with?
So we like to partner on our projects. We don't pretend to be exclusive, but we believe that bringing different investors in the project is a value for the project, it's a value for the country. What we do is we develop, we build, we operate, and then we bring other investors. In this case, it was China Southern Power Grid, which is one of the largest Chinese energy companies in the world. And I think that that is also a great opportunity to establish a stronger relationship between Uzbekistan and China, also thanks to Saudi Arabia and the investment of Aqua Power.
Let's clarify the energy sector in the market to our audience. What is important to know when we talk about the energy and what we do in this sector?
Energy is the core of everything. You need energy to do everything. And today you need energy not only for protecting yourself against the weather, say in the winter when it's cold or in the summer when it's hot, but also for producing everything that you need. and for building an economy that can be competitive to export. So competitive power prices and decarbonized electricity, so produced from renewables, not emitting CO2 that contributes to the climate change, makes the country very competitive. So if you have affordable energy, if you have green energy, then you attract investors who come here to produce everything else. Cars, steels, and everything else, not only for the local need, but also for re-exporting in the world.
You just have mentioned about the cars. Right now, e-cars are becoming popular. They're using the electricity. But isn't it still harmful because it uses the same energy that is reproduced afterwards?
So the electric car has the advantage that uses electricity rather than petrol. And so it's a renewable energy if you produce it from renewable sources. So of course, if you put electric vehicles in a country, in a situation where you burn coal, you don't really have any advantage. But if you couple it with the energy transition, then overall, all the emissions are going to go down.
So there are both negative and positive sides, but that's what you're saying? It's
Yes.
not always an advantage to use e-cars.
It is. It is, of course, a change that is going on also in that sector. And so we see rapid technological advancements on that, on the battery, on the charging stations. But I think if you look at, with all the ups and downs of every market, but the adoption that you see, for instance, in Europe, that I think together with China is probably very advanced in the world, you see that there is a trend that gradually will take place.
Did you have a chance to observe this experience in Uzbekistan? Do you think there is an advantage?
Well, I think that you are starting to see fleet coming up, electric vehicles. Of course, it's an early stage. And as I mentioned, it needs to go together with transforming the electricity sector, so producing electricity from renewables. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. And then applying and building the charging stations, which is the next step. Once you have these two infrastructure, then the adoption picks up.
I see. I had a question about the balance between the economic interests and ecological interests. Is it possible to balance these two, or there is more possibility that there will be always negative sides in this balance?
I think that today you don't build renewables out of ideology. You build it because it is the fastest, the cheapest, the most secure, because you don't rely on a supply chain, a fuel supply chain. And so it is naturally the best thing that an investor can do. So that's why you see today that the vast majority of all the new electricity that is being installed is renewables. But of course it depends on where you come from, because if you have already a system that is blessed by already having a lot of renewables, sometimes you need to balance it with combined cycles or other forms, or nuclear, for instance, because you want this diversity. You want a little bit of differentiation in all your sources so that then you're more secure and you can face any possible scenarios that you may have.
The energy sector is being privatized right now. The privatization of this sector is a popular topic nowadays. What do you think on that?
My experience, I worked 30 years in the industry, and I have seen privatization happening. And I've always seen that it drives innovation, it drives efficiency, and at the end it drives better service for the people. It's not so much that state-owned companies or publicly owned companies do not work well. It's simply that when you get privatized, when you are more following market forces, then you are naturally pushed to do every day better, and at the end, who benefits is the consumer.
As I know, you originally come from Italy, right?
Yes.
Could you talk about the experience of Italy in this area?
Yes. So what Italy did, by the way, as an example, privatized Enel, which was the local state-owned company. Until the 90s, it was a natural monopoly, 100% owned by the government. And then it was privatized. And then one decision was also to split it in different companies in a way to create some level of competition. So at that point, what happened? Enel said, well, we need to be one step ahead of the others. So what did they do? They invented the digital meter. So this is one of the greatest breakthrough, if you want, in the industry in the last 20, 30 years. And the reason they did that was that they said, to differentiate ourselves, through that we can offer time of day tariffs to the consumer. So if you consume more at night, then we can offer you maybe a better price at night. If you have a different consumption pattern, then we can offer more personalized solution to you. So you see that the competition that came about basically drove the innovation that then was exported from Italy around the world. So you can become also a center of excellence in the world because of the natural tendency to innovate when you are pushed by the market.
I see. You just mentioned about the prices, and I wanted to talk about the tariffs that were introduced in electricity. The tariffs were raised and the limits were also raised. They have also been applied to enterprises. What kind of strategy should be used in regards to the tariff system so that there is more investment interest to Uzbekistan?
Yeah, I think that Uzbekistan has taken a very smart approach basically to attract investors in the power generation, which is what you need today. So first you want to make sure that you have generation and then you fix the transmission, the distribution downstream. And to do that, I always say we're facing not so much the energy trilemma, which is sustainable, affordable, secure, but it's a quadrilemma because you need to add speed. Because in decarbonization, you cannot wait 50 years before you take action or 50 years to roll out a new system. And at the same time, people want to see change, want to see the improvement. So what Uzbekistan did is they took a dual track, in part tendered, so you have competition and you get a reference price that is competitive. And then you can use that for bilateral negotiation that you can have with the biggest, more reliable investors who can guarantee you a big scale and speed in executing these. So all this together is making the transition faster, more affordable, which at the end will benefit the consumer.
Might the transition have a negative impact on the growing countries, like not developed countries yet?
I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so, because as I mentioned, we are all going towards a world that needs to be greener because there will be barriers that are put in place based on the carbon intensity of what you produce. So you need to roll out this system. The other thing is that by putting renewables in the system, you can offset the amount of gas, for instance, that you need to burn to produce today electricity in older, less efficient plants that burn gas to make the electricity. So at that point, not only it's greener, but you're freeing up a resource that you can use to do something else, more valuable. You can export it, or you can transform it into chemicals, petrochemicals, fertilizers, all kinds of other products that are a higher level and a higher profitability for the country than to use and potentially export.
Some local economists say that the strategy that Uzbekistan used in regards to the tariffs was at the expense of the governmental resources. How can we avoid this kind of imbalance when the government is trying to do good for people, but at its own expense, especially considering that it's a developing country?
Of course, when you take measures to transform a country and elevate it, it's probably the most difficult job. I could never do that, honestly. I'm happy that I'm representing a private company that has a much simpler task to do. What I see is really that here in Uzbekistan, all the ingredients are coming together. So I see really an economy that is growing faster than most other countries in the world, a power system that is decarbonizing faster than in other places in the world. And we see also, for instance, from the Saudi side, the trade relationship was very low until a few years ago, until we came. And now more Saudi companies, just to make an example, are coming after us because they see how successful, how happy we are with the environment that we find here. So every investor that you bring in brings more behind because it's natural. You go where your peers are going and you observe, and you see the result and you want to copy that.
Are there any significant innovations that you have seen in the energy sector by traveling around the world that can be also implemented in Uzbekistan in the near future?
I think that one of the biggest technologies that needs to be implemented in the energy transition is the storage. Because of course, with a combined cycle that runs on gas, you can run it up and down as you like. You know, you bring the gas as long as you have the gas. But fortunately, Uzbekistan is blessed to have natural resources. The same with nuclear, uranium potentially. Instead, the wind and the sun are intermittent. So the point is, how do you transform something that goes up and down seasonally or during the day or week after week into something that is more stable, more usable, and complement the system? And that technology is storage. And that is why I really admire the system operator here and the Minister of Energy, who are putting in place this program not only to focus on the grid and the generation, but also these new technologies that is the storage.
Are there any obstacles or challenges in the work done so far between Uzbekistan and Aqua Power?
You know, it's never easy to build massive projects. There's always something to work on. What I really appreciate here is the continuous dialogue that we have with our Uzbek counterparties that, enable to get over every single little thing that you need to resolve on these, multi-billion projects that you can imagine, from permitting to resources and so on that you need to put in place. And in that, the other thing that I am very proud of and grateful for what we found in Uzbekistan is the support that we're giving to the Shirin College, which is a technical university, where, the challenge when you're doing such a transition is, I need people, And so in a country that maybe did not have a lot of the innovative technologies, or maybe in a system that, a sector like power generation that maybe in the past did not attract a lot of young people because it's kind of a different generation, working in a lot of the plants. Supporting these allow us to graduate about 200 young, talented Uzbeks who can then come and work for us, but for the rest of the industry. And this is one of the biggest achievements that we're doing together with the government so that everybody can benefit from that.
So right now you don't see the shortage in the professionals in the energy sector?
There's a shortage everywhere, not just in Uzbekistan, because of the scale of the energy transition. And that is why we're so focused in making sure that we can develop together more talent, more resources.
Thank you so much for this productive discussion.
Thank you.
I was really happy to talk to you.
Thank you, and happy Independence Day.
Thank you. So here our analysis comes to an end. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next episodes.